Hi there, it's Sandra from Savvy Teaching Tips. And before we get started, I just want to ask you to like and subscribe below, ring that bell so you get notifications whenever my new videos come up. I have lots of them planned for the next few months. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about how I teach patterning in my classroom as a math concept. So before kids actually do patterning, they need to understand what attributes are. And attributes are the traits of the objects that we use to create the pattern. Things like color, size, position. You can use the math junk that I mentioned in a previous video. It's great for doing this with students. With older students, they might just need a review as you move on to other kinds of patterns. But with young students, it's a great way to get started. So, after they have played with the junk and gotten used to it, then I would introduce some concepts. And with the young kids, I would say, start sorting. Make groups of red ones, groups of green ones. Talk about color, because color is an easy one for kids usually. Then talk about size. Well, where's the big ones? Where's the small ones? After that, get them to make a pattern and make a pattern yourself on the board. There's a simple A-B pattern is a great way to get started, but you could make it out. You can do, I walk around and I'll say, oh, I'll grab maybe some of the marker lids and I'll go big, small, big, small, big, small. Or maybe I'll just make a pattern and I'll say, can anybody guess what my pattern is? Put your hand up and tell me what you think my pattern is. And then I would ask them to make their own pattern. And if they run out of a certain, like say they're doing red, blue, and they've run out of blue, well, okay, let's start another pattern below that and let's change colors up. And you will find that there are kids who know exactly what to do. They know how to do growing patterns and they know how to do complex repeating patterns. And then there are some who just can't even get the simple pattern down. But this is a really quick way for you to evaluate that, see what's going on, and it engages the kids and it keeps them learning. So we'll do this activity and we'll rotate through the math junk the way that I described in my previous video. Once they've done this a few rotations, then I will ask, is there anybody who wants to share their pattern with us? Because by this point, a lot of the kids who have poor listening skills have probably picked up there's going to be a few who just don't get it, but overall we've caught up most of the ones. So we're almost all of us on the same page now. So now it's time to ask for volunteers. And so I make sure that I pick kids who have actually made a pattern. So like when I taught KN1, if they didn't make a pattern, I wouldn't pick on them, at least not at the beginning of this activity. I would pick somebody else. Oh, Johnny, can you tell us what your pattern is? Read it. Can you describe it to us? And then they'll go big, small, big, small, big, small, big, small, big, small, big, small. And I'll be like, great. That's great. Bobby, what about your pattern? What is it? Oh, my pattern is red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. And we go from there. So your entire first lesson on patterning could just be exploring and playing with the math junk and casually creating patterns. When the kids play with the math junk, my goal is to get them to extend, describe, and analyze their patterns. And so we can't all do that necessarily in the first lesson. But once they have a solid foundation in extending, describing, and analyzing their patterns, then we can start connecting patterns to things that are out in the real world. So we've done A, B, A, B, A, B. Then and then we've done it with the math junk. So now let's introduce a different material from the classroom. Let's use Unifix cubes. We have lots of those available. Let's make an AB pattern with that. And we'll do that in a circle, because there's enough to share. And once we've done that, then we'll put it away and I'll send them off to use the math junk again, make your own pattern. And then maybe they'll make their own pattern and maybe they'll record it onto a piece of paper with crayons or with pencils. I have a unit that I've linked below in my TPT store that has a lot of the worksheets and activities that I use when I'm teaching patterning. But this video also includes more details about how I use the math junk and things like that. After we do our maybe Unifix cubes, maybe the next day we're going to use our whole body. We're going to use body patterns. So we're going to do a clapping pattern, like low, high, low, high, or clap, pat, something like that. It's a really great way to, it gets them moving, and it's making many connections in their brains as to what a pattern is. You can do stand, sit, stand, sit, stand, sit, and get kids to line up in a row, or boy, girl, or snap, pat, you know, hands in front, hands behind, hands in front, hands behind. There's lots of different ways that they can make patterns with their bodies. You can also use any math manipulative that you have. You know, we've talked about Unifix cubes. What about pattern blocks or color tiles? Whatever you've got at your disposal. And you can change it up, start every day with a different one, and then move on to the math junk, or move on to a worksheet, or move on to whatever your activity is. Maybe we're going outside to make connections to the real world, and we're going to go for a scavenger hunt and see if we can find any patterns out there, out in the playground. Come back to the class and talk about this. All these things that you can do. Once kids have a handle on repeating patterns, then you need to move to growing patterns. So repeating patterns has a core that repeats, like AB. So it's AB, 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 or ABC, 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 or A, B, C, A, B, C, A. Anything that has a core that repeats is a repeating pattern. Then we're going to move on to growing patterns or expanding patterns. There's lots of different terms for it. My immediate goal with growing patterns is connecting patterns to the real world, and to introduce symmetry and the concept of number. So with growing patterns, it's great to start. One way I love to start this is with food. So for example, get some red cabbage, slice it up, give kid a slice and a magnifying glass, and they can explore and see if they can find any patterns. And the kids find this hilarious. There's lots of different food you could use. You can use oranges, you can use lettuce leaves, you can even use real leaves. Just anything that's kind of got a pattern in it, you know. Cut it up, give the kids a magnifying glass, and have them explore, and then discuss, because the debriefing is part of the connecting. So after doing a pattern in food, I might the next day, maybe we'll explore patterns in clothing. And you can, if you have a lot of clothes that have patterns in them, bring those to school. Maybe you'll need some pictures. You can search on the internet. There's lots of ways to find, you know, pictures of curtains, of carpets, wallpaper. There's lots of different patterns out there in the real world. This is also a really great way to connect to Indigenous art and Indigenous materials like clothing, things like bowls and boxes and hats that they might have traditionally woven, or clothing or beading, things like that. After you had the kids exploring or talking about the pictures of patterning that you've seen out there, you could go back out to the playground or around the school to see if you can find them around the building. But then I would get them to create their own growing patterns. And so you can demonstrate ways of doing it. So there's different ways that patterns can grow. A common one is a circular pattern. You start in the middle, then the next row out, then the next row out, then the next row out. And that is really easy to do with pattern blocks. They are perfect for it. But you can also use something like a geoboard and Unifix cubes and put them on, and then you end up more with an array. So it's not necessarily repeating. It's growing outward, it's expanding. You can also use color tiles and you know, start with one in the middle, then grow it out and out and out. But patterns don't have to just grow out, they could just grow up. You could do it with Unifix cubes, 1, 2, 3, 4, as it gets taller and taller. And this is where we connect patterning to number. Kids figure out that patterns or numbers is when things really start to gel and math really starts to make sense for them. In the end, I'll take some colored paper down to the paper cutter and just cut a whole pile of little squares. It's super easy to do, very minimal prep. Bring it into the classroom and have the kids create and glue down their own growing patterns. And then you can put them up on the wall. They could write about it. There's lots of connections to other parts of the curriculum that you can make. And that's it. This is how I teach patterning in my classroom. So please look below. I've got my patterning unit linked, but I've also got a freebie for you. And also check out my Instagram and my Facebook at Savvy Teaching Tips, and my TikTok at Savvy Teaching. Bye for now.